Hi class, in this lecture I want to talk about survey problems. And what survey problems are going to represent is I'm going to give you a survey and there's going to be some questions answered from it. And then we want to construct Venn diagrams to break down the surveys and get numbers of people who fit into certain sets or different categories. So I have an example where I have the Venn diagram set up. I have an example where we have two sets, and then I have an example where we have three sets. And three sets are going to be the hardest. Okay, so just two objectives in this lecture. We want to use Venn diagrams to visualize the survey's results, and then we want to use survey results once we have them to complete Venn diagrams and answer questions about the survey. Okay, so suppose you have this, and we did this one that talked about a few lectures ago, talking about students who were asked if they were willing to donate blood or if they were willing to serve breakfast to donors. Okay, so here we have the Venn diagram that represents the results. So set A here, which includes regions 1 and 2, are the set of students willing to donate blood. Set B is the set of students willing to serve breakfast, which is 2 and 3. So notice how they overlap. And outside here, step 4, what does that represent? That's the elements neither in A nor B. Okay, so basically students not willing to do either. Okay, so how many students are willing to donate blood? Well, that's the students in set A. So that's represented by regions 1 and 2. So the number of elements in set A, well, it's 370 plus 120. There were 490 students willing to do both, or willing to donate blood. Next, how many students are willing to donate blood but not serve breakfast? Okay, so they just want to do blood and not serve breakfast. Well, that's just region 1, right? So B is the overlap, and that includes people willing to serve breakfast. So these are just the people not willing to do that. So that would be to donate blood but not serve breakfast. That's just 370. All right. How many weren't willing to do either? Okay, well, that's just region 4, the outside. Those are the people who are not willing to do either. So that's just 290. So I also have here the set operations to find these regions, but I actually find it's a little bit easier just to do it intuitively, right? Like how I've been doing. All right, so now let's talk about working backwards, where I give you the survey results and you actually then construct the Venn diagram. Okay, so solving survey problems. So here's the process we're going to do. We're going to use the survey description to define sets and draw Venn diagrams. We're going to use the survey's results to determine the cardinality for each region of the Venn diagram. So this is important. Start with the intersection of the sets, the innermost region, and work outwards. So basically what I'm saying is when you do this, start with the hardest part, or where the most interaction is occurring, where the most overlap is occurring. Start there on your Venn diagrams. All right, then you're going to use, and that'll make more sense when we get to an example. And then you're going to use the completed Venn diagram to answer the problem's questions. All right, so here's the first one. A survey is taken that asks 2,000 randomly selected US and Mexican adults the following question. Okay, do you agree or disagree that the primary cause of poverty is social injustice? Okay, so the results were the following. Okay, 1,060 people agreed with the statement and 400 Americans agreed with the statements. Okay, so notice how the overlap here, there's two sets, people who agree and there's Americans, okay, because some Americans are not going to agree with this, okay? So if half of the adults surveyed were Americans, so I'm telling you the number of Americans, how many Mexicans agreed with the statement and how many Mexicans disagreed with the statement? Okay, so here's how we're going to set this up, okay? So we're going to have two sets. The set US is a set of Americans that were surveyed, right? Now we're not going to do have the next set be the number of Mexican surveys because those would not overlap, right? Because there's no overlap in that one. So set A then here is labeled the people who agreed. So this is a set of people surveyed who agreed with the statement, okay? So the area outside the US circle, is represented by the set of Mexicans, so people who are of Mexican nationality. All right, so the group of people outside A must be the set of people disagreeing with the statement, okay? All right, so here's how we're going to set this up. All right, so we're going to determine the cardinality for each region in the Venn diagram, starting with the innermost. Okay, so we're given the following cardinalities. Okay, there were 2,000 total people surveyed. All right, so what that means is once I figure out the number of people in region 1, 2, 3, and 4, has to sum up to 2,000. Okay, half the people surveyed were Americans. Okay, so that's 1,000. So what that means is the numbers of 1 and 2 have to sum up to 1,000. Okay, the number of people who agreed with the statement was 1,060. So that means regions 2 and 3 have to sum up to 1,060. And there were 400 Americans who agreed with this statement. Okay, so what that means is the overlapping region of people who are US and agree is 400. Basically what that's telling me is that, hey, I'm telling you what region 2 has to be. So once you know what region 2 is, you can figure out what the other ones are. All right, so here's how you start this, and this is how you figure out the numbers. Region 2 represents a set of Americans who agree with the statement. All right, so we're told that that's 400. So I'm going to put 400 in region 2. Now I'm going to move to region 1. So we're given the set of US, okay? That's regions 1 and 2. It contains 1,000 people. Well, if region 2 already has 400 in it, that means 600 people have to be left over. So that means region 1 has 600 people in it. Now we're going to try to figure out what region 3 is. Well, the set of A, the people who agreed, had to be 1,060. Well, if there were already 400 people in it, the remaining people in region 3 is the 1,060 minus the 400 people we've already accounted for, which ends up being 660. Okay, so now I got to figure out the people who disagree, or excuse me, the people in set 4 here. Okay, all right, not disagree. This would be outside of neither being US nor agree. Okay, so we are given the set. So basically, what this would be Mexicans who disagree, people of Mexican nationality who disagree. So we are given that set U, regions 1, 2, 3, and 4 contains 2,000 people. So we already know that 600, 400, and 660 sum to 1,660 total people. So this means that leaves the 2,000 minus the people I've accounted for, 340 people left over in region 4. So look at this. I've got them all labeled now. All right, so now we can answer the question. Okay, the Mexicans who agree with this statement are shown in region 3. All right, because this is the people who agree, but these are US people of US nationality. So that means that's region 3. So 660 Mexicans agree that societal injustice is the primary cause of poverty. All right, and then the Mexicans who disagree with the statement correspond to region 4. Like I said, so this means that 340 Mexicans disagree that societal injustice is the primary cause of poverty. So the trick was going back, start in the center, build out the following regions. Start in the center. Once you know this, I know that the US was 1,000, that means 600 must be left over here, and so on and so on. All right, it gets a little bit harder when you have 3 sets. So this will be constructing a Venn diagram from a survey in which there's 3 sets of things. Okay. So 60 people were contacted and responded to a movie survey. Okay, so the following information was obtained. So it asked people, do you like comedies, drama, or science fiction? Okay, and you can select as many as you want. So out of the 60 people, 6 people said they liked comedies, drama, and science fiction. 13 people just liked comedies and drama. 10 people liked comedies and science fiction. 11 people liked dramas and science fiction. 26 people liked comedies. 21 liked dramas. 25 liked science fiction. So notice how I'm starting here with the most interaction, then only 2 interactions, and then finally just them by themselves, okay? So I want to use a Venn diagram to illustrate the survey's results. Okay, so when I've set up a Venn diagram, this is important, I have 3 things going on here. I have comedies, drama, and science fiction. So when I go to set this up, and I'm going to pause for a second, I'm going to show you, I'm going to have this set up with 3 circles. Okay, so notice how when I draw the first circle, the second circle, the 3 circle, all right, this center part is where they all interact, so on. Okay, so 3 things going on. So the set of people surveyed is a universal set with 60 elements. Okay, and it's got 3 subsets. So I'm going to let subset C be the set of people who like comedy, D be the set of those who like dramas, S be the set of those who like science fiction. And now let's use the numbers in this part A through G right here. as well as the fact that 60 people were surveyed, all right, which we call conditional H. Okay, that's kind of like the fact that we know that there's 60, so that should be H here, to determine the cardinality of each region in the Venn diagram. All right, let's do it. All right, so it helps to have this handy as we go through this, okay? All right, so remember what I said. Start with the most complex, the most interaction. Okay, so we know that 6 people like, so here's comedies, dramas, and science fiction. We know that 6 people liked all 3, so that goes in the center. Next, let's look at the people between comedy and drama. So it said that there were 13 people who liked comedy and drama. Okay, but we've already counted 6 of them because here's C and here's D, and that includes these 2 regions. Well, if we've already counted 6 of them, that means there's 7 people left over in this part right here because 7 plus this 6 gets you the 13. Okay, so that gets you the people who like comedy and drama. Now you move to the next other 2. Okay, there were 10 people that liked comedy and science fiction. Okay, so that's this circle and this circle. Right, well, this circle C and S overlap right here. All right, so 10 people have to be in this overlap here. Well, there's already 6, so that means this must be 4. Now, let's look at drama. So here's the drama circle, and here's the science fiction circle. Okay, we know 11 people must like drama and science fiction. Well, those guys overlap right here, this part right here. Well, if 11 people have to be in here, we already accounted for 6 of them. That must be that there are 5 remaining here. All right, after we found all the intersection regions, now we have to find C, D, S, and outside. Well, if you look back, 26 total people liked comedies. Well, we've already accounted for 4, 6, and 7 of them in that circle. Because if you look at that circle, it contains the numbers 4, 6, and 7, which is 17. But there were 26 total, so that must mean there are 9 left over. 25 people like science fiction. Here's the circle of science fiction. We've already accounted within that circle of 4, 6, and 5, or 15 people, right there. Well, if 25 total had to be in that circle, that means there's 10 right here. Now you go to drama. Drama, 21 people like drama. Okay, we've accounted for 7, 6, and 5 are in that circle. That's 18. So to get back to 21, there must be 3 people out here. The next thing you've got to do is you have to add up all these numbers that you've accounted for. When you add up all these numbers, it tells us we've accounted for 44 people. That means there's 16 people that are outside of it. Okay, so there's 16 people who do not like comedies, dramas, or science fiction. Maybe they like fantasies or horror movies, things like that, just outside of that. So notice how I did this. I started with the most complicated. Then I did 2 where all 3 intersect. Then I looked where only 2 intersect, where only 2 intersect, where only 2 intersect. And I found those numbers. Then I used those, what's the numbers inside the circle, to find what's remaining outside of all the intersection pieces. Then I added them all up, subtracted from the total, and that had to be the people outside. All right, so once we have the Venn diagram set up, okay, so this Venn diagram shows the results of a MOVE survey in the previous example. So how many of those surveyed like the following? Comedies, but neither dramas nor science fictions. Drama and science fiction, but not comedies. Dramas or science fiction, but not comedies. Exactly 1 movie style, at least 2 movie styles, none of the movie styles. So a lot going on here. All right, comedies, but neither drama nor fiction. So here's comedy, okay? But here's drama and science fiction, so it can't be those. So that's just represented by region 1, which is 9 people. Dramas and science fiction, but not comedy. So it can't include the 6 people that like comedies. So this would be the people in region 5 because they had to like dramas and comedies. So dramas and comedies would be these, right? But not people who like science fiction. So it's the only 5 people here, right? Dramas, or science fiction. So it's all the people in dramas or all the people in science fiction, but not comedy. So it can't include the overlap with comedies. So that would be here, here, and here. Okay, so that would be regions 3, 6, and 7, which would be 3, 5, and 10. Exactly one movie style? Well, that would just be regions 1, 3, and 7. Okay. You can't say region 8 because that's just people who don't fit in any of them. So someone could be like, oh, I like horror and fantasy, and so on. So regions 1, 3, and 7 would be 9 plus 3 plus 10. There were 22 people who said they like exactly one. At least two movie styles? Well, that would be here, here, and here because this 3 is at least 2. So that would be the regions 2, 4, 5, and 6. Well, that's 7 plus 4 plus 6 plus 5 also gets me 22. And people who like none of the movie styles, well, that's the people outside in region 8. That would be 16 people. All right, so the hardest thing is setting up the Venn diagram. Remember, start in the center, the hardest part, work where all three interact, then do the doubles interactions, so 2, 4, and 6, and then work backwards from there.